And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Great program today. I'll take your questions at 888 Car Clinic. Meanwhile, on the Car Clinic hotline with us now is Dan Nowlan, Laboratory Manager and Product Development Chemist for Berryman Products. Folks, you've heard me talk about Berryman Products. Well, the man is in the house. Dan, a big welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Glad to have you in the house.
Thank you.
Share with our Car Clinic listeners and viewers the difference between GDI, or gasoline direct injection, fuel systems versus port injection systems.
So the difference has to do with the placement of the actual fuel injectors. In port fuel injection and throttle body injection, the fuel injectors are placed upstream from the intake valves, either inside the intake ports or at the throttle body. Both configurations allow the fuel spray to clean the intake valves. With GDI, or gasoline direct injection, the fuel injectors are actually inside the combustion chamber. That means that the intake valves are never washed by the fuel. This configuration is more fuel efficient, but the trade-off results in the accumulation of carbon and oil vapor on the back of the intake valves, that can lead to hard starting, rough idle, hesitation, and poor fuel economy.
Point well taken. So to that end, Dan, what's the best way to maintain the GDI fuel systems, and can you use the same methods that you would to maintain a fuel port injection system?
Yes and no. So both types of engines use essentially the same type of air intake system. So your mass airflow sensors and throttle bodies, for instance, really haven't changed that much. However, with GDI fuel injectors being inside the combustion chamber, there's only two real options for cleaning the intake valves, either disassembling the top of the engine or introducing a cleaner into the airstream.
Got it. And again, it's a topic that is becoming more and more of an issue within automotive service shops. We see that every day. I personally drive a GDI engine, and it's a concern that I have have had from day one. I know that Berryman also offers a portion of their 4-step professional air and fuel system maintenance kit, the intake valve and combustion chamber cleaner. Why and how would someone want to isolate those areas?
So some GDI vehicles have buildup on these intake valves that occurs surprisingly fast, sometimes within 12 to 15,000 miles of driving a car off the lot. In cases such as those, you might not need all the steps in the 4-step kit, but you might need to really address dirty intake valves or carbon buildup in the combustion chambers.
I got it. So that standalone product actually cleans more than just the intake valves, right?
Yeah, so it cleans the intake valves, but it also dissolves carbon inside the combustion chamber. And, of course, the carbon buildup can lead to hot spots in the combustion chamber, which leads to spark knock or ping and can lead to more serious things like detonation and seriously damage the engine.
Wow. Well, one of the biggest challenges, of course, is how to apply and how to get down. And you mentioned the initially about taking the engine apart. And in the service industry, of which I've been for 48 years, it's not only a hard sell, but I'm hesitant, and my team is hesitant to ask a car owner or tear the engine apart and brush its teeth like with a steel toothbrush and the valves, because that's really what physically the only way you can get that valve as clean as it was new. And you mentioned 15,000 miles. That's early on. So folks, while GDI systems are more efficient, they also have created some problems in what Dan and I are speaking to today. Let's talk about the Berryman 4-step professional air and fuel system maintenance kit and the intake valve and combustion chamber cleaner.
So that product we spent over a year developing, not only the chemistry to do the cleaning itself, but the delivery system as well. There's no other kit that has universal application accessories included with it that let you go in through the air intake or by way of manifold vacuum induction, like through the PCV valve or the brake booster.
Got it. Folks, many vehicles today run at high mileage. 75,000 miles is a given. I get calls here on Bobby Likis Car Clinic with folks that have 175,000 miles. But what sort of additives and chemicals are available that would help them go even further and make a vehicle high mileage more efficient?
So we have a couple of different types of products. We have our Rejuvenator line, which is a fuel system rejuvenator and an oil system rejuvenator specifically for high mileage. And then we have other products that are geared specifically toward extending the life of your in-service engine oil and oil change flush, which, of course, you use every time you are about to change the oil and filter.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the oil change flush, because as prevalent as oil changes, as easy as it is to get oil changes performed, the manufacturers say 7,000, then 10,000, then 12,000. In fact, the Smart car, which has a 3.5 quart system, advertises 10,000 miles on an oil change. That's really not enough volume of oil to go 10,000 miles. I know for a fact that the Smart cars in Europe have a gumming situation with oil. So the Berryman product, you mentioned it should be added. When would you add, so let's say I changed my oil at 7,000 miles. I use synthetic oil and I have a V8 engine. When would I add the oil rejuvenator, and before the oil change, and how long would I run it?
So the oil rejuvenator is specifically designed for high mileage, and one of the primary concerns is leakage from the oil pan, valve cover gaskets, things like that. So the oil system rejuvenator is intended to go into the oil anytime after an oil change. So you can put it in immediately, you can put it in halfway through your cycle if you start to develop a leak. And the idea is that it conditions and the seals and the gaskets so that you stop leaking oil from, again, the oil pan or the valve covers.
So then the oil change flush, now, is that a different chemical from the oil rejuvenator?
So the oil change flush was developed for crankcase cleanliness just before you change the oil and filter. So ideally you would put it in immediately before you're going to start up the car to warm up the oil, circulate it through the system for 10 to 15 minutes, and really get all that gum and sludge dissolved, and then while the oil's still warm, you drain it out and replace the oil filter as well.
Well, I think that's a very good point. It's one of the issues that we see when we take an engine apart for, as you mentioned earlier, a valve cover or cam cover leak, and you'll take the cam cover off, and some engines with 150,000 miles, Dan, are absolutely beautiful, and then other engines look like they've never had the oil change. So is there a particular engine that the product can't be used, or should it be universal? In other words, I have a 60,000-mile 5-liter V8 that is a very powerful engine, and I use synthetic oil, and I'm religious. But anything that I can think of that I would add to it to make it last longer, I would do so. And so that was where the number 1216 product from Berryman, the oil change flush, that's where that would come in, correct?
Yeah, so the 1216 was designed to be robust enough to use with gas or diesel, with conventional oil, semi-synthetic or synthetic blend, full synthetic like you've got, and it can treat between 3 and 6 quarts of engine oil.
Well, that's all great information. There's always more information than what we have time to air. So where can our Car Clinic listeners and viewers go for more information and to get direct information that they can use about Berryman products?
All these products are listed on our website, which is www.berrymanproducts.com.
Terrific. A lot of information. What I would like to do is to invite you one day, should you ever be on Florida's beautiful Gulf Coast. We are headquartered in Pensacola, Florida. It would be neat for you to sit beside me in the studio here versus on the phone, and we would take questions from folks across the globe. So we'll leave the light on for you, and we'll have the mat out for you. Dan Nowlan, Laboratory Manager in Product Development and Chemist at Berryman Products. Thank you so much for joining us on Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Yeah, thank you.